Welcome back to my channel if you've been here before. If not, welcome. My name is Mazzy. I have a variety of chronic illnesses and I use my YouTube platform as well as my Instagram platform and TikTok to spread awareness about my conditions. I'm not going to get into the complete timeline layout of my gastroparesis in this video, or my digestive tract paralysis in this video. I do have a what is gastroparesis and my diagnosis journey. I will link that in the video so that it's easier to find, but if you want more in-depth understanding of how I got diagnosed and the process that I went through to get that far, that's the video to go watch. It does not mention anything about Mayo because that was before we had actually gone to Mayo, but it's not very different, if I'm honest, other than our Mayo trip, which we got a few more answers with. I had already been diagnosed and on TPN before we went to Mayo. So this is kind of a Q&A for Gastroparesis Awareness Month. But let's get into this. So I will be looking down at my phone a lot. Obviously, I have the questions on my phone. I want to start with a brief preview. Gastro means stomach, paresis means paralysis. So with gastroparesis, you can have a variety of different severities in terms of paralysis within the stomach. Your global dysmotility, which means every part of my GI tract is impacted with some sort of dysmotility. Dys means dysfunctional, and motility means movement. So I have areas in my GI tract that are super fast and they're not supposed to be, and other parts that are just not working. So the first question that I did get asked is, what's the difference between Crohn's disease and gastroparesis? And gastroparesis is a paralytic disorder, meaning it causes paralysis, whereas Crohn's is a inflammatory disorder. So it causes inflammation, redness, patches of ulcers, that type of situation within the GI tract. Crohn's can present anywhere from your mouth to your anus. It can also present in your joints, in your eyes, and a lot of other ways. I'm not currently diagnosed with Crohn's disease. We went down that route and I was diagnosed for a hot minute, but it actually turned out to be a misdiagnosis, and we're reinvestigating in the next coming months. So do look out for those. I will have a colonoscopy day in the life with dysmotility video coming, as well as I'm doing an endoscopy for gastroparesis related treatments. So you'll see another video for that one too. But for the most part, the person asked about gastroparesis versus Crohn's. Gastroparesis is limited to just the stomach. Digestive tract paralysis or dysmotility involve the entire GI tract. Crohn's affects the entire GI tract. It can present in any area of the digestive tract, but one causes inflammation because the immune system of someone's body is attacking their digestive system rather than the stomach just not working anymore. Another person asked if I'm eligible for an intestinal transplant. I technically have not been diagnosed with intestinal failure thus far. I hope to never be diagnosed with that. But if you're not diagnosed with that, you are not eligible for intestinal transplant. And on top of that, mine is because I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and that means that my gastroparesis, my POTS, my probably mast cell activation, all those things are functions of your autonomic nervous system and are directly related to the vagus nerve. And with people who have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, the collagen in their body does not work properly or is not present, and it causes your digestive tract to also be very elastic and stretchy because you see it in the joints all the time, but it is a collagen disorder. Your collagen is literally in every aspect of your body. And so that's why it can be really, really hard to go after a like intestinal transplant type situation, because in my situation the stretchiness of my organs damaged my vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve it's a huge nerve within the nervous system, obviously responsible for doing all of the tasks that you don't have to think about to do, which includes digestion. And intestinal transplant is not going to fix the vagus nerve. So realistically, I don't think I would be a candidate even if I was diagnosed with intestinal failure. Someone asked if I could explain like my presentation on a good day versus a bad day, and how outside people view my presentation and what they don't see. So, I mean, on good days, I have a significantly less distension and bloating, and like less vomiting on good days, but I'm also draining my stomach all the time. So it's hard to tell, because I've reached a point where I always don't feel good, always. I always have a stomach ache. I always have GI tract pain. I always have nausea, bloating, vomiting, severe constipation. Like all of those things are always present with my body at the moment. So it's really hard to actually make a distinction about how I present on a good day versus a bad day. I also came from the mindset that it makes me uncomfortable to not only like mentally it makes me uncomfortable to lay around all day, but physically it hurts my body to lay around all day. So I'm thinking maybe like my worst times are when I'm less mobile. But that's a really difficult question because it's so subjective, and it's hard to decipher between good days and bad days sometimes, and I think it's more important to find both in your day, and not classify the entire day as good or bad, because you have moments every single day where you don't feel good, but you can still find joy, or you feel kind of okay, but then I also start to gaslight myself that like I feel fine, I'm doing okay, I should be more productive, and it's just not realistic for my body, which is where committing to holding down a solid job can be very, very difficult. The next question is, what tests other than a gastric emptying study are used to diagnose digestive tract paralysis? So for me personally, I've had a CT scan which diagnosed my esophageal dysmotility. I also did manometry in my esophagus, and it actually did not show the dysmotility, but the CT scan that I did does, as well as my symptom presentation. For your stomach, they can do gastric emptying study, obviously. I did a 48-hour, it's called a 48-hour GI transit study. That's what I did at Mayo Clinic. Basically, you take a pill with charcoal or something, some sort of radioactive material, not charcoal, in it, and it has a delayed release capsule. So it doesn't open until it gets to your colon, because it has a specific acidic makeup that it is activated by. And so I think I did probably 6 scans in the span of 48 hours to track where, because you do eat the radioactive eggs for the meal. So it was tracking how quickly that was leaving my stomach over the 48 hours, as well as how long it took for the capsule to get to the correct spot to open up. And so that's what I've mostly done for my diagnostics. I've also done anorectal manometry. It showed pelvic floor dysfunction, and I've since healed that aspect, but I do have colonic dysmotility, and it's not related to the pelvic floor. And then there's dysmotility throughout my small intestine as well, and that was also pretty much diagnosed using gastric emptying studies, scans, different types of manometry, like all that kind of stuff. Like there's no one set way to actually, there's no one end all be all diagnosis that is like you must do this specific. I think I've also done like pill can studies where you swallow a pill that has a camera in it, and it basically like takes pictures and records where it is, how long it's there, and that type of situation. And then I personally come from the mindset that manometry testing is probably your best option. It's a great way to distinguish between a pyloric issue, which is where it's the sphincter at the bottom of your stomach. And I almost classify gastroparesis into two different categories. So you have the people who do have issues with their pylorus, which is the muscle at the bottom of your stomach. And in gastroparesis, some patients their pylorus does not open to let food through, so food doesn't leave the stomach because the pylorus is so severely tightened. And for that type of situation, a POP procedure, a pyloromyotomy, basically they cut your pylorus and so it's always open and lets food go through. In my opinion, there's a second type of gastroparesis where your stomach, just the muscles in your stomach don't actually move. So it's not an issue with not being able to get past the sphincter. It's more like your stomach's just not strong enough to actually like churn to break down food. And that's why it gets stuck in the stomach and causes all the symptoms. And I personally, based on my experiences, feel like I have the version where your stomach muscles are just too weak. We are doing an endo flip during my endoscopy later in the month, so I can talk about that after that's done, but it's similar to gastroduodenal, which is your stomach and your small intestine. That's similar to that type of manometry testing. It can test the pressures within your stomach and where issues are arising. And then we're also contemplating, if the issue is my pylorus, we will do Botox first and see if that helps. If it's not, I think they're going to do the Botox anyways and just have that be another thing we can cross off the list. But people have not, in my case, suggested a gastric pacemaker at all, ever. Mayo told us that they don't prescribe that and they don't support that because it's not as effective as it could be. And then additionally, I was told at Mayo to not be on anti-nausea medications such as Zofran or scopolamine and stuff like that because it actually works for nausea because it slows your motility. There's a whole host of medications that also fall into that category, and it honestly turns into risk versus benefit. Because Benadryl happens to be one of them that causes that as well, and I take so much Benadryl, and I know a lot of people who do because it's needed, it's required for me to stay alive, to take several doses of Benadryl throughout the day. It's like Russian roulette with your body on a daily basis. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for hanging out. Please like and subscribe. If you like my content, please share it, and I will see you later.